Thursday, May 27th, 2021. And I welcome everyone here to join us on this sunny day as I look around, although I do hear it's going to rain for Memorial Day weekend, unfortunately. But we can't complain. We've had a great May so far, and my May is getting just better because today I am joined by my fellow expat from down under, Dr. Jordan Madigan. Jordan, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, lovely day to be stuck inside all day.
Absolutely. And Jordan and I were speaking just before we got started, as the last time we got together in this kind of environment was just over a year ago. And we were actually sending a message to our colleagues in Australia and New Zealand and sort of warning them to be prepared to provide telehealth and how to manage a pandemic, because we were all at home at that stage providing all of our care through telehealth, and we wanted to make sure our colleagues who were sort of a week or two behind us knew how to do that. So things have changed, obviously. We're all back at work in our clinics. Things are looking much better. Jordan, tell me about some of the highlights of the last year. I know there was a lot of lowlights, but what did you do, and what did you do with your time?
Highlights of the last year. I mean, we certainly did a lot of telehealth over the last year, and that's, I guess, luckily started to dwindle down as we're seeing more people. But as opposed to, for me, I love traveling internationally, but we got to experience a lot of New England. So spent a lot of time in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, going to New York upstate New York in a couple of weeks. So I think for me, being able to like look in your own backyard and be able to see how amazing it is around here, as opposed to just jet setting around the rest of the world, I think that's it's really made me really appreciate New England a lot more.
I'd have to say the same thing. I found myself doing trail runs and hikes and places in Rhode Island that I'd never even been to. So it's nice that we can appreciate our backyards. So the days are getting longer. This series goes on every Thursday, 1 o'clock. We're here to answer questions. So for those of you out there in the audience, please let us know who you are and any questions you have. Now, perfect time to try and stump Jordan with some questions that he may or may not be able to answer. So please put those out there. And also you will go into our drawing today. Today we are giving away, it's coming, we're giving away something. We're going to do a drawing. We are giving away one of these cool 36-ounce PPT Yeti Ramblers. So we'll be giving that away later in the show. But please make sure you ask some questions. You'll go in for some extra drawings. You can also go to performanceptri.com/live. That will put you in the drawing for every single week, and will also allow you to watch past shows, watch this one, watch those that are coming up in the weeks to come. So our days are getting longer. We're getting ready for the summer solstice. What are you doing with the extra time that you've got each day, or days of sunlight that you have each day, Jordan?
I've been out golfing a lot more. It usually was reserved for weekends. And then last week, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon, last night, I went out and just a quick 9 holes and lost some golf balls and walked around in the dwindling sunshine. So it's been really nice being able to get home and actually do things outside, as opposed to getting home and it's dark and walk the dog in the dark and then just start the days again. So it's been really nice to have some outdoor time and do that. And dog enjoys it. Everyone's enjoying it.
So let's talk about golf. I know there's lots of golfers out there who are probably enthusiastic to get out and be with friends again and get on the golf course. I was somewhat limited last year. As people are getting off their couches and dusting off those golf clubs, if I don't know what you do to prepare golf clubs for how should they prepare their bodies? Because there's, obviously some certain movements. Let's start with, golf for a whole season or a year or two. What should you be mindful of and be aware of?
I mean, that's something, I guess, for any sport, not just golf, but I guess, if we're sitting a lot, really tight through the front of our hips, lower back's a little bit tight, just rolling up and hitting a few shots and trying to expect that you're going to perform at your best is probably not the best thing to do. So you may see on Facebook and Instagram, we posted a few videos this week of just some stretches and movements to get your hips, mid-back, lower back starting to warm up and your shoulders to warm up. And I think really that's all about gradually exposing your body to the movements that you're about to do, so it doesn't feel like it needs to tighten up and say, hey, I don't think I'm safe to do this. It says, actually, I feel warmed up and ready to go. I've got some good blood flow. I'm feeling really ready. Let's get in and give you the best performance that you've got.
I like that messaging, like you're kind of getting your body to say, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm comfortable doing this. Do you think that people should go to the golf range first, or do you think they should go, no, I'm going to go and do 9 holes, we'll play 18 goals? How should someone start their season off?
I'm always an advocate for the driving range, because I think getting some of that rust out of there is really important. But I'd say even before getting on the range, just starting with a few things at home, saying, hey, grab a club, grab a broomstick, some PVC pipe, just start to get your body moving and remembering some of those patterns. Probably at the end of a golf season, when you've been doing something for a while, your body's in automatic mode. It sort of doesn't need to think, it doesn't need to go through all those processes, but right at the start has to piece some of that together again. And so if you just go out and try to do the same things again, you might be a little bit more rusty. So I'd say definitely start with a little bit of stuff at home, head to the driving range, start with some of your irons, and then into the driver as you progress a little more from there, because that takes a little more force. But again, not just golf, any sport, if you try and run 10 seconds over 100 yards as quick as you can straight off the couch, your body's not going to enjoy that too much. So ease into it. Don't have those massively high expectations at the start, and just enjoy it.
So hearing what you're saying, lots of rotation. So lots of rotation through the trunk, through the hips, some through the low back. Any other specific mobility exercises or things people should pay attention to?
I mean, definitely, if you think, especially for golf, our shoulders are very involved, our ankles are very involved, our knees and hips. So, I mean, again, on Facebook and Instagram, we posted a couple of videos, but anything to just slowly start to get all your joints and muscles moving in that way is really important. I did post one video of an exercise where you can just be starting to get yourself moving, or bring it across your body and starting to stretch and move a little bit and gradually exposing yourself to those areas. Your body starts to feel a little bit of pain with that. It's just saying, hey, here's a warning sign. You're not harming yourself, but I'm not quite ready for that yet. And you just listen to your body and you say, I'm going to back off and slowly grade myself into that a little further, slowly grade myself a little bit further, until eventually you go and do your activity like throwing or hitting or whatever you're doing, and then you start to feel a little better with it.
Yeah. We're going to come back to golf, but let's piggyback onto that pain. Often people say, well, it hurt, I shouldn't do it. And you sort of just mentioned there, well, it's going to hurt because you haven't been doing it, so do it a little bit more. How does someone determine when their pain is something they should be avoiding or figuring out how to manage? Let's talk about your thoughts on it.
And the things I say about pain is everyone experiences pain different, and all pain is real. It's just how our body's interpreting it. And so when someone uses words that try and describe things to me, I say, use whatever word you want to use, because you're the one feeling your pain. And then we'll look at your movements or how you're describing it to break that down. So if someone starts talking about like sharp burning, numbness, tingling, I sort of think, okay, we need to maybe back off of something a little and make some tweaks and changes. But if we're talking about aching and tired and heavy and like a pulling pain, that's a lot of times your muscles saying, hey, this is something we haven't done. What are you doing? I'm going to give you these warning signs before we hit our threshold, and give you these warning signs to maybe back off. And so I tell someone, work into that a little bit. Start to edge towards that threshold just a little bit, and you might see that threshold start to rise, and you feel yourself doing a little more, until eventually that threshold is so far out of range you can do your full movements and you're never really approaching pain per se, and you're just feeling that muscle tightness. And so I'll tell someone, if they start to feel a little bit of ache or pain with something, do it a few more times and see if it gets a little better. If it starts getting a little worse, maybe that's not quite the movement for you right then and there, or we need to tweak and change something. But I'd say more times than not, getting blood flowing, getting your muscles doing those things, getting your joints doing those things repetitively in a safe environment, they usually start to feel a little better.
Great points there. And I love the fact that you're trying to empower people to manage what their sensations and what their feelings are, and try and remove that fear aspect which comes up so often, especially if someone has had back pain or you have had an injury and you're trying to return to playing golf or the sport that you want to play.
Definitely.
What are the, when we come back to golf again, what are the top injuries or top complaints that you hear from golfers who are coming into the clinic?
I'd probably have to say that the biggest one that we see is lower back. Just, our backs throughout our daily lives at the moment, that we sit in one position or we're not doing as much of that rotation. And then we go and ask it to say, let's rotate as quick as we can and then stop that rotation as quick as we can repetitively over the course of 9 or 18 holes. And so if you're like me, that's probably closer to 100, 150 times, not 70 or 80 times like some of the better golfers. But you're constantly putting yourself in those rotation positions, which in our daily lives, we bend forward and back. We maybe turn to look in the car a little bit, but we don't expose ourselves to that. And so people come in with really tight lower back muscles and they're saying, I've damaged my back. And really that tension is that protective mechanism saying, if it's tight, you can't move. And if you can't move, it can't hurt you. And so we try and unpack that a little bit and say, well, it's tight to try and protect you. Why is it tight? Maybe you haven't exposed it to that enough in the right way, or those muscles are a little weak. We get them stronger. There's no need for them to be tight because your muscle strength will stop the tension and the damage that's happening there. And then you can go about your day and feel strong and mobile and not feel like you need to constantly be stretching or constantly be tight or in pain. So for us, lower back is probably the one that we see here the most. You hear of golfer's elbow, people gripping the club too much and the rotation that you have to do with your wrists or your hands, having contact with the ball. So, we sit and we type all day, or we're on our phones all day using our hands and our forearm. And then we go out and try and do these maximal activities where you're using those muscles and they're already tired. So one of the biggest things we do for that is isolated strength exercises. And people are like, why don't you just keep stretching it? It's like, well, if we can get it stronger, then it can tolerate all of those activities. You don't need to be sitting there and overly stretching something that doesn't want to be stretched. If you get it strong, it feels a little better.
So there comes the conundrum. I've got some time. I want to be safe playing golf. Do I work on my rotation and my mobility through my spine and through my shoulders and through my elbows and wrists? Or how do I balance that with the strengthening needs? How does strength and flexibility work together?
So the way I like to frame it to people is that you can be as flexible as you want if you're as strong as you need to be. So if, say for me, I had a struggle bending down and touching my toes because I'm sure there's parts of my hamstring that say I don't feel safe letting you go to that position, so I'm going to tighten up and pull you back from that. If I work on a little bit of strengthening, or what we call it eccentric strengthening, so you're lengthening a muscle at the same time as trying to strengthen it, so you get the best of both worlds. And that way then you're exposing it to these new positions and asking it to work on strength at the same time. And therefore, gradually over the course of days, weeks, months, my hamstrings maybe will let me go a little further because they feel a little safer because they're a little stronger. And then I don't need to be sitting and stretching and trying to touch my toes all the time, or working on all these little hamstring curl exercises to strengthen them but shorten them at the same time. We can work on lengthening and strengthening at the same time. In terms of the flexibility side of things, people say I have to set time aside to be able to do 10 minutes, 20 minutes of stretching. Well, why don't we break that into 10 or 15 seconds 100 times throughout the day? And then by the time you finish your work day, or you've been doing things around the house over a weekend and you want to go out and do things, you're already limber and you're not feeling so stiff and sore, and your body doesn't feel like it needs to go from 0 to 60 just like that. So for me, it's, if we're talking about the strength side of things, eccentric work will work a lot better over, if you're trying to just fit things into a small package. It's sort of a one size fits all group of exercises. But then mobility wise, if you can do it all throughout your day, then you're feeling like you're not having to, I need to get up 10 minutes earlier to do this. I can be sitting in a chair right now and working on a little bit of thoracic and lumbar rotation. I can be sitting here halfway through a meeting and doing a little bit of back work through here. I turn my Zoom screen off for 2 minutes and I can get some shoulder work happening. Or every time I go and grab a drink, I'm up against the doorway doing 2 or 3 seconds worth of a little bit of stretching. So much easier to break it up throughout your day than having to find dedicated time for it.
Now, just a word of warning. we as physical therapists kind of get away with doing these movements during the day. I actually was just in our staff room getting a cup of coffee before this, and while the coffee was pouring, I was doing single leg pistol squats. Not that I found that low in a pistol squat, but I saw some stuff online a while ago with people like you actually truly doing a real pistol squat. So now it's in my mind, I've got to do it. So there I was at lunchtime, like in the staff room doing my single leg with heels on, pistol squats. And one of the office folks came in and was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "This is what we're doing. You got to move during the day because now I don't have to later on."
Exactly. Just don't get caught in those pelvic tilts all the time and making yourself look a little funny then. You save that for yourself. Yeah.
That for the home time. Save that
exactly.
But you're right, and it's so much to do with the lifestyles that we lead, which is kind of, we're all imprinted that unless you've got a physical job, if you're working at a desk, you should be sitting there working still rather than like I'm standing right at the moment. I don't sit ever.
Yeah.
Find ways, simple little ways that you can move during the day, because it's ultimately going to minimize your risk of pain and optimize your ability to move and do the things that you want to do and be pain-free doing it.
Definitely.
What's your favorite eccentric strengthening movement for your hamstrings?
My favorite one is a Nordic hamstring curl, and I cannot do it to save my life. But I think there's becoming so much more research on how great they are for injury prevention, and they're just so damn difficult, but everyone can give it a go in some way. I would say then,
do you want to demonstrate it so that people know?
I don't have someone in here to help me out, but I wonder if I could rearrange some things here and see what we can do. Essentially what we would do is I would be on my knees here and someone would be holding my feet, and we can even do it with a desk chair. Why not? That way then I've got a chair here, and what I'm going to do is as I roll out a little bit, my hamstring muscles from here down have to stop me from falling flat on my face. So for me, I want to tighten through here and here, and I'm just letting myself roll forward so my hamstrings are getting longer at the same time as having to stop me from falling. And then I just work myself back. Now, elite level of this, they would get rid of the chair and they'd lower themselves all the way down to the ground and back up. I can tell you very, very quickly that I'm not at that elite level to do that, but a nice fun one to do with a desk chair if you've got one.
Yeah, I really like it, the desk chair. I'm so pleased I put you on the spot and you invented that exercise. It's also a great core exercise, and you're working.
I was just feeling that. It's like, I need to do more of those.
And you know, it's also a good shoulder stability in this push-up position again, which is a really good upper body stabilization exercise.
Yeah, we do these on the big physio balls that people sit on and let them roll out, and arms get a little shaky as they're a little off. And I'd say putting a pillow under your knees is probably a really nice thing to do that with. But I guess for someone who doesn't want to get down on the ground and do that type of activity, one really nice one is just to do like a single leg deadlift where you're slowly just letting yourself come forward and feeling the tension through your hamstring as you're then coming back up as you're here. And so then your hamstring's trying to stop your knee from sort of wobbling all over the place and stopping your upper body from just dropping forward. So that's probably an easier one to do sitting at a desk. You can hold on to something to help you with your balance, but helps you to lower yourself down slowly.
Probably my favorite, but I am going to start the Nordic hamstring curl, but the single deadlift, and then you can add lots of variations, is probably my favorite. But I wish more people understood the positive impact that controlled or that negative work or that eccentric strengthening does, not just for your strength, but also for your mobility, and getting that combination of mobility and strength together helps. You know, in lots and lots of different ways. Other things, what about some of the more softer sides of things? I know that because of COVID, I think we've all gained an appreciation for the importance of sleep, mindfulness, hydration, nutrition, any key points or top things that you like to tell patients about those different concepts?
I guess, and it's probably going back to a few other of our podcasts that we've done, but planning is probably one of the most important things with that. If I'm rushing around all day and I don't know where my water bottle is, I didn't pack lunch, I'm running late for all these things, and so I don't know if I'm going to get enough time to sleep, there's just this ball of chaos there, and your body wants to tighten up and protect you after that, and that can create more pain from there as well. So I think prior planning for all of that just helps. And I think, was it Brendan that was talking about the meal preparation? And we've had a few others with, sleep, hydration. We were just talking to Nick before we got on this, and he's got his big mug of water with little lines on it that says you must drink this much by this amount of time. Great. Have your water bottle there, and it tells you if you're not drinking this much by 12 o'clock during the day, you haven't drunk enough water. Start drinking a little bit more, and you have your meals already. I mean, you maybe don't have to go to the extreme of planning them out and having them all pre-cooked, but know that you've got the food in the fridge and you've been to the store and you've got 2 or 3 days worth of healthier food there, so that your body doesn't, have all the inflammatory properties from eating processed foods and just grabbing something quickly on the way home and eating while you're sitting down and all those type of things.
And I think they're great points, Jordan, and we just have to, we continue to recommend this to our patients. But do you think that the patients that you're seeing in the clinic have become, because of the pandemic, more aware of the control they have over all these different components that will actually impact the way they feel?
I think it's almost forced us to become a little bit more aware, because it's changed our time constraints a little. I think especially at the start of the pandemic, when people were working from home and they could walk straight to their fridge as opposed to running out the door and forgetting their lunch and having to order in from the cafeteria or somewhere else. They've got a lot more control of when something happens and how something happens. And as we start getting back into, office life and going out and doing all our normal things, I'm encouraging people to let that carry over. You found time to do it before. You found this new you, essentially. Why don't we keep that moving forward and, sleep a little bit more? Don't be checking emails at midnight. Set time aside so you know that, you can get yourself a good sleep. You're drinking the right amount. You're eating the right amount of foods. If you're eating really well, 99% of the time, your body's going to be feeling great.
Yeah. Yeah, they're such good points, and that is my hope, that despite the challenges of the last year, we will all have learned to be empowered, and that we actually have a big control over a lot of the way that we feel, and not succumb to the craziness of what many of our lives were like before. All right, again, for people out there, I would love to hear some questions, whether they're related to pain, strengthening, stretching, or golf. Feel free to shoot those questions out to Jordan Madigan. While those questions are coming through, let's see who is joining us next week. Next Thursday at 1 o'clock, we have Dr. Jake Piccolo. I love that Jake is sporting rollerblades, and I love it even more that he's got elbow pads, knee pads, and a helmet. That is awesome. I'm going to keep a close eye out on Blackstone Boulevard to make sure I don't hit this person if I see him out there. And we're also next week giving away the Hypervolt Go worth $199. People are using these a lot to help managing their aches and pains. And it's a great tool to have. So please feel free to join us next week with Jake. So Jordan, what have you, over the pandemic, we all seem to spend a little more time listening to podcasts, reading books, watching TV shows. What's something you could recommend that you either listened to or watched?
I picked up a book, and we've spoken about it a few times, called Never Split the Difference. It's all about the power of negotiation and actually the amount of power that you have coming into a conversation to get the results that you want. And I think that doesn't have to be going in and talking to your boss and asking for a raise. It can just be, hey, I want you as my patient to be able to do X, Y, and Z. How can I talk to you appropriately and have you understand what we're getting at here to let that happen? So for me, that was one thing that really helped me with patient care, because I could, negotiate that, hey, here's something I want you to do. I want you to believe that you came up with it. Let's talk about it a certain way. Listening, I listen to a lot of the TED Radio Hour, I think it's called, where they just put 4 or 5 different speakers together and talk about one topic, and you don't have to listen to all these little different podcasts that sort of mashes it together. I really enjoy listening to those as well, just completely random topics.
I agree with you. I'm a big fan of all the TED Talks, helps me keep up. And I love the never split the difference. I would say for me that over the pandemic, using Zoom and telehealth and really made us understand and appreciate more the importance of communication and how that impacts us all. All right, let's go ahead and give away this Yeti bottle. I
feel like I need to start asking myself questions so that I can win it. That's a nice blue shirt. Where'd you get that from? Oh, I can answer that.
You should answer that one. Yeah, there you go. Maybe we'll see what we can come up with. Sarah, who we have? Here's the beautiful Yeti that Jordan really wants for himself. Who is our winner today?
Our winner is Marilyn Matsko.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. We will be reaching out to you. Now, again, for other people who are listening, we are here every Thursday at 1 o'clock. You can sign up to get announcements about this, performanceptri.com/live. Please go there. We had a poll that went out this week. The poll question was, here it comes, because I can't remember it. What has an effect on your body's level of pain? Sleep, stress, nutrition, or all of the above? What did our people out in the community have to say? All of the above, which obviously is the correct answer. So again, an important point to note. All right, Jordan, what are you looking forward to most in the months to come, other than some golf? Other than some potential travel? What else is going on?
I think grilling, being outside, reseeding my lawn at the moment. So thank you, Thunderstorm, for coming last night and getting some lovely rain in there. I'm sounding so old now, grilling and watering a lawn. But I'm really excited for everything getting closer to normal. I think we're all starting to, we're vaccinated, catch up again without our masks on and do things safely. And I think seeing friends and loved ones again is something that'll be hopefully coming on the horizon pretty soon.
I agree. And for those of us who are originally from lands far, far away, that time frame hopefully will be sooner than later, but at least we know it will happen, even if it doesn't happen till next year, but it will happen. So Jordan, maybe you can take those first flights down to New Zealand when they open it up. That'll be a good day. That'll be very exciting. Nice day. We do have one question that has come through from Kristen Sousa. You said you may have already answered it, but if you're exercising, experiencing pain, could you stop, or could it be normal if you're just not used to the movement? Love that question. We spoke about it a little bit before, and it's really to do, for me personally, on the type of pain you're experiencing. My recommendation is back it off a little, don't stop, see how it feels, and if you can then ramp it back up to where you were before, keep going and enjoy it. So if we talk about those thresholds again, if your threshold is low because you haven't done something, and then you're doing something that puts you above that threshold, sit below it, nudge it. Maybe, let's say if you're running or walking or biking, you haven't done that for a while, ease off a little bit until your body gets used to it, then nudge it up a little. Eventually that threshold gets higher and higher, and you can work in this nice safe zone through here where you don't feel anything, and you just keep everything moving. So, and again, if it starts to feel sharp, starts to feel really burning, numbness, tingling, probably a really good time to get on the phone and have a chat to us. And I love the fact Kristen's bringing up this, because like Kristen, I anticipate many people are getting back to gyms and getting back to golf, maybe getting back to things like Legree or Pilates or different things. And thinking, how is it okay that I'm feeling some discomfort? And I think, Jordan, you just said, yeah, it is okay. you can work with it, you can do it. We have another question from Kayla. My dad's complaining of some golfer's elbow. Should I tell him he can keep playing or should he rest?
Oh, that's an interesting one. With golfer's elbow, I'm the type of person to say maybe backing off just a little bit and working on some really sort of specific strengthening exercises for a short period of time, maybe a week or so, and then starting to get back into it is good. Golfer's elbow is usually like an acute inflammatory response to the tendons not feeling very happy about an overload of exercise that you've just put on them. And so those tendons just need a little bit of love. Most of that, though, is strengthening. So back off a little, strengthen, then we get back into it and see how it feels from there.
And I'll put in a little plug for physical therapy, Kayla, because golfer's elbow, when it's acute and it's first time round, you may be able to manage it just fine, but just don't let it turn into something that it keeps coming back, because when things like that turn into a chronic condition, that's when they become much, much harder to treat and manage. So often we see people who are like, yeah, I've had this niggly thing for now a couple of years, and it comes and goes, and each time it gets worse and worse, and now I just can't even play golf or live with it. Now it's really, really hard because the muscles have become so weak. There's been some scar tissue. There's damage. That becomes a much harder thing to manage compared to an acute injury where, yeah, try work it out on your own. But if you're not getting it right, then get some help, because those tendinitis, those inflammatory things turning chronic are really, really hard to manage and can be very frustrating. So there's my little...
And the fixes for them are actually really easy, and a lot of people just don't know how to go about doing that. So let us guide you with that. Let us show you how to stretch, how to move, how to strengthen, and a little bit of dry needling, a little bit of soft tissue work to get that inflammatory response going, and then we go from there.
It's really frustrating, I think, for the general person out there, because if someone has an acute injury such as, I've got some golfer's elbow, when they come in to see us, it is pretty easy to treat it. You do this, maybe a couple of visits, that's it, and they're good forever. And then people go like, oh, well, that seems so simple. Next time something happens, I'll just like go onto Google and figure it out myself, or do this or do that. So it sort of makes it sound like it's a really easy thing to manage and treat, which it is, if you know exactly what to do. And everyone's a little bit different. And then what happens is other times people go, well, it's not a big deal. I'll just try to figure it out myself. And it doesn't work out. And now it's 2 years down the line, and now we see the train wrecks, which we're like, oh, if only we could get our hands on things and get this person better when it first came up, then it would never turn into a big issue.
I agree. And I think I read something the other day, and I was like, don't confuse my 8 years of experience making something really simple as that being something that's just really simple. Like, we've spent all of our time studying, researching, practicing, seeing hundreds and hundreds of people with that condition, so we know what to do and what not to do. Google's very generic, and it'll probably give you the worst case scenario at first. So for the sake of a couple of visits, I think it's definitely worth it to be able to get back doing what you love.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jordan, well, great advice today. It's always a pleasure to have you on and allow the public to see that there is a difference between our accents. And you have the last 10 seconds of this segment for the advice and for our messaging. So the stage is yours, my friend.
Okay. I guess move it or lose it. If you can't go wrong getting strong, it hurts a little bit more than you're expecting, then reach out to us and have a chat and let us know what's happening. But also prior planning. Plan for everything and you won't fail.
Thank you, Jordan. And we'll see you all next week.
Hooroo.